Hi, I'm Dave Wagner, and welcome to version 2 of our CoDeSys software demonstration for YouTube. We had a lot of hits on our first layout of this video. We had no real idea that it was going to get so popular. So we thought maybe we would re-record this with a little longer time and just a little more in depth on the software. This is based on the CoDeSys platform that ABB sells with the AC500 PLC product. And so that's pretty much what we're showing here. We're going to just take a brief look at the software, how it works, and a couple features we like about it. So first of all, we have a navigation pane here on the left-hand side. We have 4 tabs: our Program tab, our Data Types tab, the Visualizations tab, and the Resources tab. So in the Programs tab, we see a list of the programs. On the Data Types tab, this is where we may store different types of data that we have. Also, the Visualizations tab is here where we create visualization screens that we'll be using for troubleshooting, commissioning, and even later on for customer interface if that's what we want. The Resources tab is where we set up not only we have our global variables list, but also we have some tools in here for communication and for our library managers, and also for our PLC browser, PLC configuration tree where we set up the PLC, our target settings where we choose the processor, task configurations where we determine how fast programs execute, how they execute either on a variable, rising edge of a variable change, on a cyclical time, or if they just freewheel. Okay, so let's go back to our program. Anytime you create a program, we have the option to create it in many different languages. As you can see here, these are the 6 different languages to create a program: instruction list, ladder diagram, function block diagram, sequential function chart, structured text, and continuous function chart. Each of these languages may have its advantages. Maybe easier to program your particular application in that language, or it may be one you're familiar with. In the US, ladder logic, or LD, ladder diagram, is the most common and what people are comfortable with typically. And so we're going to look at a little bit of each of these. As you can see here, you can also create your own function blocks. That's great. You can create a library of your personal function blocks if you find you're doing a certain set of code over and over again. Create a function block, and then it's a lot easier to add in. Okay, so let's take a look at structured text. This is a sample of a structured text program. In each one of our program windows, we have these 3 windows on the right. Top one is where our variables show up. The green is our comment lines. The blue are the functions that the PLC recognizes, and as those functions are recognized, they turn blue, whether it's in the text of the code here or in the text of the variable setup. And then here's our variable names. Alright, so down here we see our line-by-line code in structured text. And as you can see, we're making this variable equals 0, this variable equals 0, this variable equals 0, and this variable equal to this. So we're doing a little if then else statements here. Pretty simple and standard programming stuff, as I like to say. Okay, let's take a look at a ladder diagram. You can see here in a ladder logic program we can use contacts and coils. And we can also use contacts with blocks that have an enable pin. And therefore this is a multiply box. We have add, subtract, move, and so forth. This happens to be a custom block that's been designed particularly for communicating with an ACS500 ABB drive over Modbus. So again, it's a function block that was created within the library here at Technicon. Look at this is our continuous function chart. Nice programming language. This is not required by the IEC specification, but it is added in by CoDeSys. And the advantage of this is in process control. Maybe you want to take the output of one block into the input of another block, and you don't feel like creating that interim variable to handle that information. All you want to do is transfer it to the next block. Well, that's what this is for. And as you can see, at the corner of each block is the number that the block falls in its process or its order of being processed. So you can order everything by data flow automatically. and the PLC software will do that for you. Okay, so that's a basic rundown of the programs here. Let's take a look at the visualization screens. We were over here before. It's very easy to quickly take a look at these elements within your screen and change the colors, the text, the help text, and so forth. If you want to select a variable within your software, it's a quick function 2, F2 button on your keyboard. Brings up all the variables, global and local variables within your software, and you can even drill down within to get information even within individual function blocks. The internal variables within those function blocks are available. Okay, very easy to set up, very quick. You can add logos, like in this case we've added our logo, and it's easy to put graphs, buttons in here too as well to switch between visualization screens, so once you're live it's easy to go through each one. Okay, in the resources tab, here's where we can see our global variable list. We also have some tools, EDS configurator, IP config tool for configuring your IP address if you're programming over Ethernet. We also have the Cycon.net software that's built in, and that has all the things necessary for each of the communication modules, whether it's Profibus, Ethernet, DeviceNet, all that's in there. Makes it very easy, visual setup software for that. We also have our library browser, our library manager, so we can look at each of our libraries. You may have your own libraries where you've created your own function blocks. We can look at our log. We also have the PLC browser where we can send commands online to the PLC and get status information. PLC configuration, this is in a tree configuration. We'll compact the tree here so you can see what the basic tree looks like. So we have our CPU, some selection of options on the CPU itself. We have the I/O bus. In this case, we have an AX522 analog module. If we wanted to add other modules, it's simply right-click, append sub-element, and add a module in. So we have those choices, and everything's addressed properly. If we look at the individual points, we can choose here. We have a lot of options for what the analog input will be. Point to point, we can change them from RTD, current, or voltage. And we can also make it a digital input if we so desire. So that is a nice feature. It's the same with the analog output. Interfaces, of course, on this particular processor we have two COM interfaces and a field bus plug. Each one is can be set up for Modbus, ASCII, and other protocols, and they can also be set up as a combination of a Modbus slot and a online access if you're using that for programming. And the field bus plug can be set up for a number of different field buses as a slave. We also have communication couplers. This particular processor has a built-in Ethernet internal. We have a Profibus master on the side. We can add up to 4 total, and we have here 9 different options to choose from: Profinet, Profibus, Ethernet, CAN, Open, DeviceNet, and so forth. We also have the target settings where we choose what PLC. It's simply a matter of changing the target settings. All the AC500 family is in this software. Our task configuration, here we can set up when a program cycles, how often, if it's freewheeling, if it does it on a time base, if it does it once based on a variable, and so forth. A lot of features. It's very feature rich, more than I could show in just a few minutes. One thing we want to say about the CoDeSys software with ABB is we really like the help features. Within the help file, we have some awesome information here that makes it easily accessible. As you know, we had the AX522 module in there, and if we search that real quick in the help file, you'll see real quick that this is a full-blown manual, not just for programming, but for the hardware itself. So we have basically a layout of the hardware with the key here showing which each feature is. We have quick links within this one page, because you'll see real quick that it's a long list of information, so you can jump to exactly what you need. So let's say we're interested in the measuring ranges of the analog input, so we'll click on that. And here you can quickly see what the measured values are, and what the what the decimal and hex values are of each of those ranges. Okay, so whether it's RTD or current voltage and so forth. All right, so let's just jump back to the top here. I'm going to scroll down and show what all is available in this help file, why we like it so much. You got your base information, your terminal descriptions. Here's your terminal layout. Internally shows where the grounds are connected together, the commons, and how they're interfaced to the supply. Now here's the connections for each type of input, so you're not left hanging with any particular type of input. You see that it's a sample is shown here on exactly how to wire that type of input to the analog channels. Pretty nice. So nothing spared here, and each particular piece of hardware supplied by ABB has a very similar cut sheet on it, right from the processor down to each particular communication module and each I/O module. Very similar to this. Lots and lots of information in the help file. Forget the paper manual. You won't need it. So hope this has been informative. If you have questions, check out our website, techniconiec.com. Give us a call, and if you want a quote on an AC500 ABB PLC, we have everything from a very inexpensive processor to the high-end processor that works with this software with a complete function set. So look us up online. Thanks for watching, and hope this has been helpful.